Hey out there, good morning. It's Thursday, just after 7 a.m. Let's take a look at what Union Beach looks like at this time of the day. Nice and quiet down here at this hour. Check that out, the sun's just about to come up. Got the Freedom Tower back there, I don't think you can see it. Somebody took my spot this morning. I like to park in spot 17 every day. I had to park in spot 23 today. So anyway, I come down here, have a little quiet time, and now I'm on my way to the Kingsburg house. By the way, I could see Kingsburg from here. So I just got over here to the Kingsburg house, and I was reminiscing. I think I made a video about this. Well, I know I made a video about this. Our first house that we got for real estate investing, I put the down payment and the first draw, the first fix-up costs on Diane's credit cards. Diane has such a stellar credit history and such a lengthy credit history that she has some sizable credit limits on at least two of the credit cards, like $50,000 credit limit. And they send her checks sometimes. The checks are like, hey, use up to your credit limit for whatever you want. When I first saw them years ago, I was like, who gets these checks? So anyway, we financed our first property with Diane's credit cards. And I've made some videos like, hey, and it's true, this is true. I can't believe Diane trusted me to use her credit cards to buy a house. Well, that is true. However, yesterday I paid off two big credit cards. And I was thinking to myself, the other way to look at it, which is true, is there was some pressure on me. I'm using my wife's credit cards to buy a house. Like, if it doesn't work out with credit cards, I don't know about the marriage. So, man, there was some pressure on me to make that work, and luckily it did. Yesterday, I paid off these two credit cards. They were just over $45,000 worth of credit cards because we refinanced a piece of property in order to get the cash out. We lowered the interest rate, but we got some cash out, and I think I got $45,300 or something, like just over the amount of the credit cards. I don't like paying credit cards off as much as I do getting the money. That's one thing. The other thing is, that's how you're supposed to use credit. You know, like, I think a lot of people are under the impression that all debt is bad debt. And that's not the case. Like, if you're going out and you're putting $45,000 worth of debt on your credit card to buy a new Beamer that you can't afford, that might be bad debt. But if you spend $45,000 on buying a house, and that's what we did. I used those checks again to buy another piece of property. And they got these deals. I mean, you guys are probably familiar with them if you got good credit. I got good credit, and I think they're starting to send me some checks on some of my credit cards now. But they got these deals where they send you the checks, and it says like 4.9% interest with zero fee as long as you pay it back within 12 months. So, for instance, borrowed $30,000 on I forget what credit card it was. And it was 4.99% interest for 12 months and zero fee. So, I forget how long we had it, 6-7 months. We paid about $500 worth of interest on it, and we borrowed $30,000. That's phenomenal. Like, I'm all into borrowing money and leverage and then making money on that money. Like, oh, it gets my juices going. Then you got to pay it off in time. Because if you don't pay it off in time, then it goes up to that like 21% interest or something like that. So then it's kind of like not worth it. Anyway, my point is, for those people that think that all debt is bad debt, that's not the case. I forget how much money we made off of that house, but we now have like, I don't know, like $100,000 in equity in that house for when we want to retire or do something else in 10 years. We're making a little bit of positive cash flow. And this all came from borrowing money on a credit card. Like, I love that stuff. Listen, one of the things I was going to say it's on my bucket list to do a stand-up routine. I don't want to say bucket list, though. But hey, here's how my kids look at my jokes. They gave me this big coffee mug that says, Harry, Dad's joke fuel. What the hell does that mean? That means that I only got dad jokes? I got some good jokes. Here's a joke. You may not be a real estate investor if you drive around in your car by yourself wearing a mask. Come on, that's friggin' good, right? On my way over here, I saw somebody driving around. I swear they were driving a Volvo, and they had a mask on, driving by themselves. They may have been sanitizing their hands at the same time. That's what made me think of that. My dad used to say, many true things are said in jest. So like that joke, there's a little bit of truth to it. Like, if you're not a risk taker, or I don't know how else to say it. If you're not a risk taker, this probably isn't the business for you. And I'm not saying like I'm a big risk taker, like, oh, tomorrow I'm going out and jumping out of an airplane or anything like that. I like to do calculated risks. So if I see a house that has potential and I run the numbers and it just makes sense and I'm jumping on it. It's one of the assets that I think I have is I act immediately. But if you're not into any kind of risk, taking any kind of risk, then this probably isn't the business for you. So look, I cut 2-inch strips off of a piece of, a nice piece of plywood. And I used a guide to get exact strips, like I'm really happy with those strips. I used them for the windows, let me show you. I got 5 windows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 windows that look like this. So it's a block wall with a nailer, 2 pieces of paneling, and a piece of drywall that they just put on. And this is how the windows looked. They look like crap, right?
Oh my goodness, Harry. What are you going to do with those nasty looking windows?
So I take these 2-inch strips to frame out the inside, and then I put molding around. And this is what it looks like. Now it's not painted. However, you get the idea. That's beautiful. That looks finished. I love it. I love it. I didn't know how I was going to do the windows. When I first got the house, I was like, maybe I can leave that old molding up. And I was like, nah, that old molding's got to come down because the inside looks nasty. And then I came up with that. Is that a risk? I don't know, talking about risk. Well, it's kind of risky if you don't know what to do in a situation, and then you got to wing it. That's what YouTube's for, right? Well, taking risks, using credit cards to buy a house, talking about wealth building and things like that, the topic of money, it's not always that popular to talk about. I just got done listening to the second book from this author, How to Be You Are a Badass at Making Money. And man, it was a good book. As a matter of fact, I'm highly recommending it. I might listen to it again. In there, she compares the topic of money to sex. And like, they're not appropriate topics of conversation, but we're supposed to know all about them. But if you're like me, I grew up with this thought process that money is the root of all evil. People that have a lot of money are like, they're jerks, they're evil, they're bad. It didn't come to me like that clearly, but you get the picture. Like, the pursuit of money is bad and things like that. And, you know, that's not the case. I like money. Could I say that I love money? I don't know. I love ice cream. I guess I could say I love money. I love money because of what it could do for me. What it could do for my family, the freedom that it gives me and my family, the fact that I can give it away, that I can be generous, all these different things. I have to build up the story behind like why I would love money. Like, well, if he loves money, then he must be really shallow. Well, that's not the case. I'm telling you why. I love giving money away. Like, let's say, for instance, with the guys working on the house. I love paying those guys. Like, when they're done, oh, matter of fact, one of my vendors, little local mom and pop shop around here, the owner said, hey, Harry, you are the most aggressive payer I've ever met. He said, like, I didn't even have the invoice in. I got gutters done on the house. And then he said, I don't even have the invoice from the guys yet. Can you call back another day? I'm laughing because, you know, I think I got screwed when I was a kid a couple times. People not paying me money. When people are done working, I am friggin' paying them right then. Like, I know how important that is to have the money coming in. And I love that about having money, being able to do that. Now, paying those credit cards, that's a different thing. That's like an institution. It wasn't as easy. But anyway, listen, I wanted to just say, that's a car I drive. And I really like it. Cadillac CTS, I think it's I think it's 7 years old. It's got the tinted windows. I tinted the windows because without the tinted windows, it might be considered an old person's car. So the tint makes me feel a little cool. So I'm not all into like the fanciest cars. However, I would like to get a piece of property that could pay for a CTS V. That's the one with the Corvette engine in it. But last night I was looking at Cadillacs because Diane works for an auto dealership they have like 23 dealerships, and they just acquired a Cadillac dealership in Manhattan. So I was looking on their site, and they have some CT5 Blackwings. Got like, I don't know, like 500 horsepower. 500 horsepower, not horsepowers. Anyway, so if I can get a piece of property that can give me $1,000 cash flow, a new piece of property, then I got to get by talking to Diane about the CT5V.